Hey everybody, welcome to the 15th episode of Duke's Download. I am so thrilled that today we have not only an incredibly talented actress and singer, but somebody who has been a real trailblazer and amazing activist for the LGBTQ community, Peppermint, who of course was the star of the Go-Go's musical Head Over Heels that was on Broadway a year or two ago. So there's also that personal connection there as well. She is on, so let me send her a request. Connecting. Should be. Hi, Peppermint.
Hi.
How are you?
Hello.
My mom
Yes.
just sent a heart eyes emoji.
Where?
She's on. She's watching.
Oh,
She was
I see her.
she was so excited when I told her that we were gonna make this happen.
I'm excited that we're on too. I put way too much highlight on my brows.
You look perfect as
I
usual.
think it's fabulous.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Me right. I'm doing great. I'm here in my apartment in New York, City 12.
What has it been like there? I mean, through this whole ordeal in the last few months must be kind of. I mean, it's surreal here, but I mean, it's been pretty surreal in New York, I imagine.
Well, yeah, it's been a lot. I think, and no matter where you are, it's been a lot to deal with COVID and with everything happening. We're in a blender of the politics and the trying to cope with the stresses and the pandemic and everything and so it's been a lot. It's probably one of the most intense extended periods of time that I've ever personally experienced, and I think we probably all have that in common. New York was obviously the hot spot of COVID for a while, and so I think there was a moment in time where we were taking the quarantine very seriously. Not that we're not now, but things were more intense when the lockdown was really kind of structured and pretty stringent. Things have relaxed a little bit now. Thankfully, the numbers in New York City are trending in the right direction. I know it's not that way everywhere. And so that makes me think, that the chapter, there's another chapter of COVID that we're going to have to deal with, I think. But I'm doing well. I think 3-4 months in, I've finally figured out a way to live and thrive during what's going on. And so I've fallen back in love with creating music. I've fallen back in love with trying to perform in some way, even if it's in my living room. And so it's been great.
Well, I was just thinking earlier because I don't think we had ever actually properly met, but obviously I was there at the opening, which was the best night of my life. I'm sure for you it must have been even more incredible experience. And for me, it was such an amazing night. And then I know that we ran into each other at the airport in Salt Lake when I was with the Go-Go's at Sundance.
Yeah.
What were you there? What were you there for at Sundance?
I was in Salt Lake City I was there twice. I think I was there for,
Did you have a performance?
what do you call it? The film festival.
Right. Okay, so you were speaking at a panel, or you was involved in
Yeah, what's the name of the film festival?
Yeah.
What's the name of that Salt Lake City Film Festival? No, Sundance. Oh, yeah. I was at Sundance. But the week before that, I was in New York and then came back. I was in Salt Lake City twice in January. Once for Sundance and once for Gay Ski Week. Yeah, that's what it is. It's one of those two.
I was just thinking about how much has changed since then. I mean, and how
in the world, yeah.
Where we had no idea how the world was going to change, and not just the COVID thing, obviously. I mean, just the political upheaval and the protests, and it's just so fascinating that things can be coming in the very near future, and yet you really have no idea basically what's about to happen to you, and how quickly things can just sort of change. We were so happy
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would say that it was like everything was perfect, but we were definitely in a groove, and we knew what we thought we knew what lie ahead, and all signs were pointing to like everything moving in a certain flow with a certain pattern and a certain succession. And I think we were all used to that. And then of course, in comes COVID, and I was traveling a lot. Obviously right after I'd seen you, my main, obviously it's no surprise, traveling is what usually the main way I earn money. And I was traveling in February and in March, and I saw folks wearing their masks, many folks coming from Asia, and I think that was primarily at that point in time, especially in February, probably primarily because they wanted to let everyone else know that they were cognizant and trying to be careful. I know I'm flying in from Asia. I'm going to wear my mask. And I was the only woman I saw that was up in that Delta lounge wearing a mask and a visor. And I had the whole, I was ready. I could have gone into surgery myself. And that was in February. And I felt a little silly doing it, but I was like, I really need to take care. And obviously, things turned out the way that they did. We did, I know we had a rude awakening, and it was a surprise to a lot of people. And there's, we lost more than I think anyone was ever prepared for in terms of people, jobs, opportunities, time. But I think on the flip side of that, we have been sitting, many people, in quarantine with time, and it's really allowed us to have the types of conversations that we didn't have time to have before about equality, about Black Lives Matter, about LGBTQ folks, about health and mental health, and just everything that we need to consider.
Absolutely. And I want to talk a little more about sort of the political stuff a little later, but I wanted to first just ask you, you sort of already alluded to this, but, I just know from my mom too, like what she's been through in terms of, when you have a profession where you're primarily either singing, touring, and then when you're having that kind of lifestyle, to go from that, as you said, were you planning a tour for your album that you put out at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, I even pushed back my album. I planned a tour and I pushed back my album. We have a new date. It's September 4th, Friday, September 4th. It is called A Girl Like Me, Letters to My Lovers, and it's basically my personal diary set to music. Anyway, I think my phone might die in a second. Hold on, let me just plug this back here. I was on 5%. Woo, caught that in time. Anyway, I was planning to tour for many different reasons. I had a couple of things. I had a college speaking tour separately. I had a tour called Nubia that I produced with some other queens from RuPaul's Drag Race to promote, the sentiment that Black queens matter. And this is something that we've been planning since last year, and we had sold out shows in New York in the beginning of March, not knowing that Black Lives Matter would become a thing, this year, a poignant moment of conversation. And then, of course, my own album that I was planning on releasing. I was supposed to release it in May and then tour in Europe in June. And so all of that was on hold. And I had taken 2 months off to work on the album, finish writing it, finish recording it in November and January. And I was like, the money was going down, and I was like, it'll be okay, because I'll be on the road in just February, March, and April, and I'll be on the road. And so that all stopped.
And the problem is, hopefully towards the end of the year, early next year, things we'll be able to do shows again. But it also may not be the case. I just know, I understand, for my mom, she doesn't know when she's going to be able to work again. It's up in the air. Everybody's up in the air. But hopefully that that'll change. But in the meantime, I know you've been super busy, and I also then wanted to talk to you a little bit about where you started and how the whole drag race because you've had this incredible trajectory, and I mean, starting with Drag Race, what, 3 years ago that you were on the show?
I was on Drag Race 3 years ago. Yeah, season 9.
And how did that happen? How did you even come about to get, to audition or get involved with the show?
Well, the show's been on since, I think episode 1 of the show was 2009. And so I was a fan of the show, watching every season. And before that, I would move to New York City years ago, before the 2000s, and went to school here, and then continued doing drag. I'd done drag a little bit on and off, and then decided that drag would make a great career for me. And so I was working in drag weekly in all the bars and clubs in the city. Eventually, I ended up traveling, going to London, going to Australia, all over the world to perform. I had music. I had a drag album out, and I was putting out music when really there weren't a lot of other drag artists doing it in a mainstream way, other than, I guess, RuPaul. My music video for Serving It Up, which was my first single, was actually the very first drag music video to ever play on the Logo channel, which was also the channel that RuPaul's Drag Race premiered on, right? And so that was in 2005 or 6, that the video came out. And so all that was before Drag Race. And I was living the life. I was traveling. I was a touring artist. I felt great. And then around that time, well, actually a little bit later, when Drag Race came out, I said, this isn't really for me. And back then, the queens who were, even the ones who were winning Drag Race, the grand prize was $25,000, which is a lot of money, but it's less than it is now. And I was already touring.
That's not Trixie Mattel said in the comments saying, living their best lives.
Is that bitch? Wait, Trixie, bitch, I'm about to do a video, bitch. Thank you. I'm about to do a video right now. I'm about to do a video. That's what I'm going to say.
Trixie, I interviewed him last week.
Hello? Wait, what did you say?
I love Trixie, and she's actually a big Go-Go's fan too. So
I know that she is.
Small world. It's a very small.
Yeah.
Interrupt you.
Anyway, it's all good. So I was traveling and doing my thing. I didn't think that I needed to audition for Drag Race, and then the show grew and grew in popularity. And so come around, several seasons later. By the way, one of those years, 2012, the first time I met your mom, worked with her. I think we were in Maine, somewhere in New England. Yeah, at an event, and I was like a backup singer for her with some other queens, and so that was a wonderful dream come true. Anyway, later on, I eventually said, well, if you can't beat them, join them. And so I auditioned for Drag Race. I had auditioned a couple of times, 3 times the charm, got on my 3rd time, which was season 9, and the rest is history.
Unbelievable. And I mean, were you aware that you were the first out trans contestant on the show? Was that something that you were aware of from the get-go, or did that only get sort of pointed out to you later on?
Well, I knew that there hadn't been a lot of other trans women who were out on their first episode or, early on in the episode. There definitely were a lot of trans folks who have been on the show and talked about it either during the filming of the show or later. But I didn't really hear a lot of trans girls saying, I'm trans and I'm about to audition for Drag Race. And so that kind of put me in a certain mood, but I was like, okay, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but we're going to give it a shot. And obviously I did. And yeah, it worked out well.
I mean, you've become this incredible trailblazer, and I mean, not only from Drag Race, obviously, but then going on to become, which is kind of a mind-blowing, profound thing. I mean, the fact that you were the first out trans star of a major Broadway musical. I mean, that's a massive milestone. So I just want to say, congratulations. I know it's 2 years, but I really, I found that so inspiring. And, but I also was curious, how that whole process even started and how you even came to get into Head Over Heels.
Well, I had just come off of Drag Race, and contrary to popular belief, I was not just handed the role. I had to audition several times. I was on tour in Europe, after finishing Drag Race, and I was on tour for several months in Europe, and I was with my manager, and things were going lovely and making very fine money, very good money. And I got a call from my agent asking me to, telling me about the show, suggesting maybe I should audition. And before that, I moved to the reason why I went to New York City is because I moved here to go for Broadway. I went to school to train for Broadway, musical theater performance school, and so that's what my college degree is in. That's what I'm used to. But then I sort of took a drag detour, and so later on, many years later, I was encouraged to audition for Head Over Heels. They said that there's a role that they wanted to cast with a trans actor, and I know that I'm not the only Drag Race girl to have auditioned for it. But I auditioned. I was on the road. I remember being in my hotel room late night after our shows in Europe, and all the other queens I think would go to bed, and I would stay up, read the script, and then tape it with my friend would come in, and we would tape, self-tape. I would tape a bit, email it to them, go to sleep, wake up, do the drag show. The next day, I would get some feedback, and they'd say, "We love it. We're moving you on to the next round. Try this and that." And I'd tape another thing and do it again. And that went on for about a week. And then finally, the last week of the tour, we were about to do the big closing day of the tour. And they called and said, "We love you. We just want to see you come in. And can you be here tomorrow?" And I was in Europe. And I was like, "No, we're about to do a show. And I'm getting paid really good money." And my manager was like, "I think you should go and try it." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm about to leave this tour, go and do this." But I did, and I'm glad I did.
I mean, so then you literally got on a plane and you flew.
I got on a plane, I landed, I dropped my bag, I took a shower, and then I had to be there at like 1 or 2. I took it literally the next day, because they said, "Can you be here tomorrow?" And it was a Saturday, and I had to leave on Saturday to get my flight back and arrive on Sunday morning. And so I took a red eye, dropped my bags off. I landed at like 7 in the morning, dropped my bags off, went to the audition at like 12, and that's it, whatever, a few hours to get home, drop your bags, go to the audition, walk in like a creeper, and then, sing the song and meet everybody there, meet all the producers and directors. And I went to go get Jamba Juice, a smoothie, with my assistant, Patty, who's now Monet's assistant. And we went to go get some Jamba Juice. And by the time I was taking my first sip, they called and said, "Oh, you got it, bitch." And I was like, "Oh my God." Okay.
Wow. What a story. And, so that was something I actually was going to ask you. So Broadway was something that you aspired to. It was something that was always sort of on your mind. So it was not just something that sort of came along. Like you wanted to be on stage, going back to when you were younger. Were you a fan of musicals?
Of course. I love Broadway, and I auditioned for many Broadway shows before this one years ago. I love you, Trixie. Thank you for that. I auditioned for a lot of Broadway shows and didn't get them. And the time when I was in college, my professors were telling me, "Thank you for your tuition, but you will never work on Broadway because you are queer and black and this and that, and nothing that is castable. Nobody's writing plays with anybody like you in mind." So that's that. And then I was like, okay, I guess I'll do drag. And so that was kind of how that all played out for me. And so it did feel kind of very full circle to be able to be in a Broadway show and hold a principal role in a Broadway musical. It felt very good. And being able to do it in a role that was also an historic role, because it wasn't just my playing of the role, but it was also the fact that Tithio, the character, is non-binary. And although I don't identify as non-binary, I really felt that it was, an honor to be able to carry that story in and showcase it.
Absolutely. I mean, you changed the world. I mean, you really did. I think, it's because of you now, and hopefully that's a permanent shift that hopefully is never going to. And you're right. It's not just the opportunities to give more representation in terms of the people that are performing on Broadway, but hopefully the roles themselves, and hopefully telling more stories that are more diverse and reflective of the actual world. You know. Of course, I mean, I was, of course, sad that Head Over Heels didn't spend more time on Broadway, but it's had this amazing afterlife, and and I love the reunion that you guys did.
Yeah, your mom joined us in the reunion, and it was really sweet to be able to do that. It was just a nice little moment. We were doing a kind of a cast Zoom reunion before that, where we were, talking to each other and catching up for old time's sake. And then we had the idea, hey, what if we do a little sing along? We actually did another version, that we're going to release later on. We did a part 2, but that's not ready to be released yet. But it was nice to get together with everybody and sing, remotely. And yeah, it was nice.
Now, for those of you who haven't seen it, the cast of Head Over Heels did a reunion on. I think it's on YouTube. I went to Entertainment Weekly and got the YouTube link through there. But it's really worth watching. And you guys did it as a fundraiser for, was it the Ali Forney LGBT organization or homeless?
Yeah.
Homeless.
It's a homeless shelter. Yeah. Yeah. Ali Forney Homeless Shelter, which is based in New York City. It's an LGBT youth shelter. And so we did it to raise awareness for the shelter. And it was a great opportunity for us to come together. We actually had the idea, yes, Ken Phillips' video. Oh, that's Ken. Hey, Ken. The video is on YouTube. And we had the idea to, do something for Pride. It's perfect time for Pride. Wow, that last comment. That's what everyone wants to do, darling. You'll have to get in line and take a number. And we had the opportunity to reunite for Pride and do something good with our, with our little spotlight that we had, and it felt good. In the spirit of Head Over Heels, because that's what, I don't know, obviously a lot of people think of Broadway as something that's open-minded and a safe space for people who feel different or other or queer or whatever. But Head Over Heels particularly was, I think, a magnet for a lot of people who identified a little bit differently. And it was a very body-positive show. It was, very non-traditional in its casting. The story really tried to dismantle the patriarchy, literally. And obviously the different gender expressions and sexualities. It was just like all types of people were, welcome in the show and represented. And so that felt good to be able to do.
It was so funny because, I think when they first started, I remember I was 18, I think, when the Go-Go's first started working with Rick Ferrari and, Beautiful People on trying to put together a Go-Go's musical. And I think, initially, because that's sort of how these things usually work, they thought, oh, it's going to be a Go-Go's musical about the band or whatever. And then when they finally read, the script and the book, I think they were actually, so thrilled because it was so different than anything that anyone has really ever heard or seen on Broadway. And it's true. In terms of the representation and the diversity and the different issues that it addresses, I think in a way, maybe it was not too, because I think it was a good thing, but too highbrow and too way ahead of its time for mainstream Broadway. I hope that Broadway takes the lesson, and hopefully there will be more musicals along those same lines.
I think that there will be. I want to say hi to Sandra Jennings and Tommy Daddario. Hey, y'all, love you. I think that if Head Over Heels, I think we were a little bit before our time, and certainly the Broadway community and people who had stake in keeping things traditional and the same as they've always been were the types of people who were not necessarily on board with our show. I remember seeing a few people, I think, who were very open to a lot of people, and I wanted everyone to hear the stories that we were telling in Head Over Heels. So there were definitely a few people wearing a couple of red hats who we would see in our show, who we'd see them get up and walk out of the show. And I was not happy about that because I wanted them to stay and hear, that we're the same, essentially. I do think that if and or when Broadway does open, shows like Head Over Heels will have a much more of a fighting chance of survival because we're not going back. No, I don't care what industry you're in. I don't care if you're in football. I don't care if you're in Broadway. I don't care if you're in film and television. We are not going back to business as usual. That's what we know.
Absolutely. And no, that's sort of a good segue. I know, I really, really admire how you've used your platform to talk about, political and social issues. And, I wanted to get your perspective. I know you've already been talking a lot about this, but, how do you feel about the political climate, especially in the last, 2 months with Black Lives Matter? And, were you feeling optimistic, or are you feeling sort of, scared? I think probably a lot of people feel a lot of sort of fear and dread about where we're going, given the elections coming up, and it just feels like a really turbulent time in the country right now.
Well, I think I think a lot of the turbulence comes from the fear of COVID and all of the uncertainty that brings, whether it's economically, obviously on a health perspective, people don't know if they're going to get sick or not. Obviously, people are worried about their friends and family members. And so I think that the whole world, from my perspective, seems to have changed in the light of COVID, and so the way we do everything has changed. The way we connect with each other, and it's really interesting. I think that social media, like 3-4 years ago, served as sort of a distraction for people, where they would use it for a little bit of this, a little bit of communication, to meet somebody, to promote something they're promoting. But I think people looked at social media as sort of the problem in terms of being able to connect with one another on a real level. That people would say, put down your phone and look me in the face. I think that was how people were relating to social media then. But during Corona and during the pandemic and the lockdown and the quarantine, people have been using social media to connect in a much more, I think, authentic way. This is the only thing that we had. And I just put it this way. If I thought we were doomed when we were sitting here the best thing that was going to come out of quarantine was Tiger King, then I was like, oh no, darling. And so knowing that during this time we're able to connect with seeing these horrible images coming across videotapes that were coming out on a weekly basis, and still are, of police brutality, of injustice, and things like that. Seeing all these images and then being here in your house, not really being able to leave, and you're kind of forced, you've looked at everything else, you've rewatched Game of Thrones, Tiger King is over, they even made a whole other episode, an additional episode. We're done with that. Now let's look at the real stuff. And people were at the opportunity to engage with the notion of systemic racism as a real problem in a way that they never had before. And so I'm really encouraged with all of the activism, with all of the energizing of the different people coming together and talking. I think I've heard the other day that it's hard to count this, but it looks like the Black Lives Matter movement might be the largest socio-political movement in history and in U.S. history. And if that's true, well, that might be true, and hopefully it is. But it's indicative of the type of change that we are ready for and that is necessary to get to really where we need to go. It's a lot more than just hiring a black person to work at the job. It's a lot more than putting a woman, putting a lady to do the thing. It's really about systemic change and really shaking up and dismantling the system, reorganizing the system. Whether you're talking about how police do their policing, whether you're talking about how companies do their hiring or advertising, whether you're talking about race relations, whether you're talking about, the patriarchy and how we treat and view women and femme people, all of these things are important parts of the conversation that I think have had more impact during COVID.
No, you're right, because people are forced to sort of reflect. And I can tell you, I had sort of a profound experience where, after months of being in quarantine, I then went and participated in one of the big demonstrations, that took place here in LA. And that was to go from like quarantine to being in this crowd of like 20,000 people or whatever. It was a pretty emotional and sort of like really profound experience. And I participated in different marches in the past. This is different. I feel there's a different energy and a different, it's more diversity. You're seeing it's not just African Americans anymore. There were always, a lot of young people that would participate, but now it's everybody, young, old, black, white, trans, cisgender. Everybody's participating, and I think people are realizing the only way that we're going to defeat Trump and fascism and systemic racism and all these things is if we work together. It's intersectionality, and we need to all support each other in our respective social justice movements, because ultimately we're all in the same boat. Anyway, I agree. I think we're moving in the right direction. We win this election. That's all I can say.
Everybody vote, everybody vote, everybody vote. And, there's a lot of forces working against folks to make it impossible for people to vote with voter suppression, with ID law. And so it's important that everyone who is eligible to vote and wants to vote, hopefully that's everyone, can vote, and without having to be shut out of their voting polling place, having to wait in line for 10, 12 hours or whatever. Nobody wants that. We want to be able to vote by mail. Whatever it is, we should all be able to vote. And there's a lot of entities and folks who benefit from only a few people being able to vote.
Yeah. What happened in Georgia? It's not just Georgia, but it's disgusting. That's the thing is like I have to like always put what's the word? Whenever I say like the most important thing to do is vote, I always feel like I have to add an addendum to that, because like plenty of people who want to vote but are prevented from voting. So it's not just about wanting to vote; it's about making sure everybody has the access to the ability to vote.
That's the bigger part of it. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but I'm so appreciative that you've taken the time, and I know you have so much going on. I know one thing I wanted to mention is July 30th, you're doing the GLAAD Media Awards, which you're having.
Yeah, I'm doing the GLAAD Media Awards on July 30th. I'm a presenter, and I'm not presenting an award, but I'm presenting some humans. That sounds bizarre, but you just got to tune in. I'm really happy to present and acknowledge some people who, I don't even know if I can say who it is, so I won't yet. But I'm really happy to acknowledge a couple of people who are, I would say, newer allies to the LGBT community, and because of their daughter. And that's as much as I'll say. And I'm really excited to be able to connect with them and welcome them to the family. And so the GLAAD Media Awards, they were postponed. They were supposed to be in March. I had my dress all picked out, and I was actually going to bring Sandra Jennings, who was here earlier in the chat, and he was going to be my date, and obviously that was postponed for good reason. And now, and so yeah, I'm doing that. I'm excited.
Well, yeah, so I guess people can look it up, and the tickets are available, I'm sure. And I'll definitely be there to watch you. And you're one of my biggest heroes. Seriously, you're amazing, and I'm so grateful and honored that you took the time. Seriously, and I hope that when this is all over, that we get to see each other in person. So. I
know that I'll be spending a lot of time in California, in LA, once everything is normal. So I'll definitely look you up, and we'll go get some coffee.
All right. Well, be safe, be well, and talk soon. hopefully.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.